So when we had Darren G in here, we talked about fear versus respect. And I mentioned True Tony's had a lot of respect. He'd put in 30 plus years by the time I met him. He was serving 140 plus year sentence. You know, he was a small old man. He wasn't one of these guys running around, with the chests out and beating people up. So a new person coming in might think, he's just like some nobody upstairs on his bunk reading the book, but actually he's one of the most respected people in there. Versus the guys who are in your face, who are all, puffing their chests out. So how is respect earned then? And what's the difference between fearing someone and respecting someone in prison?
Well, as far as San Quentin was concerned, you can have as fancy a respect as anyone will give you on the street, but
Yeah.
it doesn't translate to the prison yard.
Yeah.
The prison yard is like the savannah in Africa with the hyenas and the lions and the wild dogs, and everybody's teeth are out, and whoever gets the bite in first wins. And you don't want to be an old man. As many bodies as you might have put in the ground with the mafia. So what would happen in Quentin is those kind of guys would be transferred off to Tehachapi, where they put the oldsters,
Old
the gray
timers.
hairs, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because
It's too feral, is it?
it's just feral, it's wild,
Wow.
and fear equals respect. So, and the fear means, will this guy stab me? That's the basic line. And you look into his eyes and you look how he carries himself, and you say, is he up for it? Now, if you look into Two Tonys, I don't know what he looked like or what he was like, but would he physically be able to
Yeah, he would still fight people if it went down to it. Yeah.
because
Yeah. He was proud of that. He got in some fights. He lost against younger people, but he was proud that he threw down and was, yeah.
well, I would suggest that basically it's like those nature dramas, you know? The lion chases away 2 hyenas, but 3 hyenas start biting its ass, And it doesn't matter how famous the lion is, 3 hyenas, you know?
Yeah. Wow. And, from your lifestyle then, going in, you talked about how you had to the story you just gave us, how you showed that you were down and that proved you got respected. But, what about when you first went in? How did you have to learn that?
Well, this is the thing. When you first go in, you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You don't belong to a gang. And not only that, but unlike a lot of the guys who'd gone through youth authority and they've been trained up since they were 15 years old for this life, I went into it as whatever I was, 20 years old, 21 years old, and with no experience. And so there was a big learning curve that I had to come up with to see where I was. And at the beginning, because I was physically nothing to look at, that was my priority, was to, you know, make sure that I could do more sit-ups, run further, lift more weights. Whatever it was, I could do it more and better than most people. And then your confidence grows. And then as you see how the game is played and how it works out, you see what the do's and don'ts are. And also there's basic rules. I mean, when I watch these guys talk about how hard they are, there's nobody who's hard. You want to do a hardness test, you go buy a Sunday ham and you put it on a sideboard and you take a vegetable knife with a point and just plunge it right into it. And that's how hard you are.
Bloody hell. Wow. Speechless.
And so we're bags of blood and guts and a few bones. So we're not hard at all. What we can be, though, is you can have intuition, you can have quickness, you can have common sense. You can sense out the right answer at the right time. And this is how we got ahead in life. We're not that hard, we're not that strong, we're not that fast, but we're a lot smarter than the other animals. And so in prison, that's what you got to be too. You have to have a certain level, of physique and ability to carry yourself, but you sure gotta have some common sense and avoid all the pitfalls.
So someone coming in then who's not got that physique, do you recommend they get on that right away?
Right away. I mean, and you'd be surprised at what you can do. Well, I showed you those pictures, you
Yeah,
know?
massive.
I mean, it was just
Like a Viking.
night and day, right?
Yeah.
And that made a big difference. I mean, when I was in Canada, we used to play, kind of ragged foot what we call Canadian football. It's not soccer, it's, tackle and throw the ball. And, I had this guy, he was, one of the tattooed guys, and he tackled me, and he got up, and he said, "It was like tackling a tree." Now, I'm not that big and thick, but 'cause I was working out all the time, your muscles are dense,
Yeah.
and that gets some physical respect. And this is what's important in prison is physical respect, because 'cause we're animals. You're right on the savannah. You're not in the library, you're not, in anywhere civilized. So, you're operating on that level.
Yeah. So you said the newbie should come in, work on his physicality, and avoid the pitfalls. What are the pitfalls and how are they avoided?
Well, I'll give you an example. In San Quentin, there was this guy I knew called Ralph Pitts, and Ralph he'd done a home invasion with a samurai sword. So he was a lively boy himself. But when he got to San Quentin, he felt completely out of his depth. And so he started going to the chapel and he became a Christian. And he tried to immerse himself in his work. So he was a welder. He got a job in the welding shop. And he worked and worked. And when he wasn't working, he'd go to the chapel. And then he'd come back with the Bible and read it. And he was married. He had a family. And he had a gold wedding ring. So one day he's in his cell, Sunday, and these two Chicanos come in and they say, "Hey, Holmes, nice ring you got there, bro. I mean, I've been thinking about getting one from my canal, Can I have a look at that, man? That's pretty cool." And he goes and takes off his wedding ring and hands it to this guy. And the Chicano just pockets it and the two of them leave his cell. And Ralph is just, he's stunned and he comes up to talk to me. He comes up right like a couple hours later. He comes upstairs and he says, "John, what should I do?" Because I'd known him from Vacaville. And I said, "Well, this is the fork in the road." I said, "Before those guys sell it for some heroin, you get a pipe and go down there and just get them. Try and get both of them, but at least get one. Or," I said, you shine it on, you go with Jesus and turn the other cheek." And Ralph turned the other cheek. And I mean, a couple months later, I saw him. He'd been in the canteen line. He got a big bag of canteen because he had a good job. He's a welder. He got $30 a month. I don't know how much they used to pay you guys, but $30 a month was considered a
50
good.
cents an hour was the most you could get in Arizona. Some was at 10 cents an hour.
He was at the top end as far as we were concerned. And he got a big bag of canteen, and he'd taken 2 steps, and a guy just grabbed the canteen bag out of his arms and just walked off. And he's just standing there shaking. Because Ralph was a violent guy himself, but he was desperately trying to get out to be with his wife and kids. But the problem was he'd lost respect. As soon as he walked into the chapel, being a fish going to the chapel, he had no respect. Now, some of those guys in the chapel are down home gangsters from 20, 30 years. And so they can make that play and not lose completely because they've had past respect. But he'd just gone straight to the chapel. And as far as he basically thrown the white flag up and said, "Take from me whatever you want." And I don't know what else happened to Ralph, but that was a hard row to hoe, that one.